Hello, good morning and welcome to my channel and welcome to the Costa Blanca. I hope you're well. I've decided to come out for an early morning walk whilst it's still reasonably cool, and I thought I'd bring you along with me and give you a few little updates on my new life in Spain and what I've learnt along the way. There's a man up here playing an instrument. I don't know what it is. Sorry about this, I think the light is really playing havoc with my filming here. All I can see on my screen is a black silhouette of myself. Maybe that's enough detail. Not sure whether you can see that. Let me know if you can tell me what that instrument is. Beautiful sound. So in the last video I talked about homesickness because my wife and I were both suffering with it a little bit, and I thought that would provide a useful starting point for today, because in some ways that's the most important part of of what we're going through at the moment. So one thing I've realised is that every month here in Spain is different, and we were told this. We were aware that if you want to be sure whether you like a new place, you need to see it in the summer, in the winter, and so on. And I think we're actually now living through probably the two most challenging months of the year. And that's because it's so hot, so humid, and so busy that we're struggling a little bit. And we have to stay indoors a lot with the blinds shut. We can't even go out on our balcony because the general sort of atmosphere is so oppressive. It just drains you of your energy, and it's even quite dangerous if you spend too long out in it. It's sort of middle 30s, I think, but obviously it feels hotter than that in the sun, and the humidity makes it feel, almost unbearable at times. Thankfully it's got a bit fresher now, but another heat wave is on the way towards the end of the week, and I think that might be about the fourth heat wave we've had. So pretty challenging. And what also happens in these months is a lot of the people we've met and become friends with go away for these months. So they either go, that maybe they've got two homes and they go back to the UK or to Ireland or somewhere like that, or they go off on holiday to somewhere cooler, perhaps up in Scandinavia or somewhere, I don't know. But so what that means is we have less of a social life here now during these months, and also a lot of the activities stop. So our walking group has now stopped until probably September. Our Pilates group is about to stop until also the middle of September. And when we walk down the streets here, we were getting to a point where we actually would often bump into people we knew and we could stop and have a chat. But now it's just full of tourists, and a lot of the people we know aren't here at the moment. So the whole feel of the place is very different. Now I can manage that to a certain extent because I I have interests that I can pursue in the house. So, for example, reading or working on the computer, doing all the admin that needs doing. But for my wife, she prefers to be outdoors. She is a very active, physically active person. And so she's feeling somewhat trapped, I think. And that's not helped by the fact that we still haven't sorted out her residency. We've been here for almost 3 months now, and we're still getting together the paperwork for that. I'm now officially a resident here because I'm an EU citizen, so I was able to sort that out, but even me, it took 2 months to sort out. But for my wife, she now piggybacks on my residency, but the process is a little bit different. And currently we're waiting for our marriage certificate to be apostilled, I think they call it. So it's like a legal check to make sure it's still valid. And also she has to have a criminal record check, and that has to be apostilled as well. So hopefully that'll be sorted out in the next couple of months. But in the meantime, that means she can't leave the country because she's about to go over her 90 days, which is the maximum time you can stay here without an EU passport. And so she can't go back home to see her family or anything like that. And consequently, as I say, she's feeling a bit trapped. But what we're doing is we are adapting. We're learning and we're adapting. And I'll talk about me because this is not about my wife, but for me, I decided I needed to look for inspiration. So I've started listening to podcasts again. One in particular I've been listening to is by a self-help guru. And that I'm not normally into self-help kind of stuff, but this you always pick up a little nugget of wisdom, or often it's just reminding me of things I already know, but we often forget some of the important things in life, and it's useful to listen to other people's stories and other people's advice on these things. And oh, by the way, the person I'm referring to is Mel Robbins, so maybe you've heard of her. And she used a single word in the whole episode. She used a single word that kind of resonated with me, and it was the word expansive. And it got me thinking that I'm currently needing to grow into the space that has been created around me by this big move in my life. And in that space is new people, new opportunities, things I need to learn and understand. And it's important that I have the right mindset, the right attitude to all of this, and that I embrace it. Because amongst the strangers I meet could be my next best friend, or could be my next business opportunity, or could be my next hobby, who knows. And it's important I try these things out, that I say yes to events, that I don't just sit around the house with the blinds shut waiting for someone to come and sort out my problems. And I reflect back onto a difficult time I had in my life in Germany, and I did spend a lot of time waiting. It was almost like I wanted to just pull the duvet cover up over me and hide away from all of my challenges and all of the things that were making me feel depressed. And I'm determined not to to do too much more of that again. You know, life is short and I'm getting older, and I want to make the most of all of this. And so, for example, on a very hot night, just after England had been knocked out of the World Cup final, we could have stayed at home and been miserable, but instead we went out and watched Spain excuse me, watched Spain play in the World Cup final against Argentina, and it was a fantastic atmosphere. I'll show some footage of it now. And it was wonderful to see all the local people celebrating, and I think the right team won. And yeah, it was a lovely evening out. And it really sort of lifted my spirits, and it reminded me of a similar evening when we lived in Germany, when Germany won the World Cup final and also beat Argentina. And I think I'll go down on the beach now because there's too many people along here. And we also went to one of these fan zones on that evening and had a very nice evening. So the evening here in Spain was both good fun, enjoyable, but it also brought back some memories of my time in Bonn in Germany. Okay, I'm now going to go onto the beach where it's a bit quieter, and then I'll carry on talking to you. Those of you who watched my videos before will know that I get very self-conscious making these films in front of other people. Okay. Right, this is not easy walking, but I'll try and make it work. Yeah, so we've made an effort, and we're throwing ourselves into all sorts of things, even though it's a bit quieter in terms of our normal routines, but there's still some people here we know, and there's still things to do if you're willing to get out there and look. And part of the adapting to this new way of life, or to the heat should I say, is to go out early in the morning like I am now. Even now it's only 5 to 8 in the morning, and I've been out for more than half an hour. And also to go out later in the evening and just accept that in the middle of the day, so probably between about 12 and 5, you just stay indoors and make yourself useful. Do whatever needs to be done, or that you feel like doing. But that's a very different way of life to what we were used to. But it's working, it's really cheered both of us up. So we came down to the beach. We either come down to the beach or we just go swimming in the sea, in the little cove near where we live. But for the beach, for example, we came down here at about 8 o'clock when we had the beach to ourselves, a bit like it is now, nice and quiet. And we stayed till about 12 o'clock, and we did some swimming and some reading and talking, and it was wonderful. And the heat was bearable, and yeah, once again I got that feeling that I am very fortunate and living in somewhere that's, well, very special. Right, where's a good place for me to sit rather? This is not easy walking now and I might have an accident, so I think I need to sit down. Yeah, so, and then similarly we decided to come down here late at night. Well, not late at night, but about 6 o'clock, and we stayed till it got dark. And again, swimming in the sea, and then we had a picnic down here, did some reading, had a drink, and it felt fantastic. So part of the challenge we face is simply changing how we live our lives so that it fits with the climate here, and that's made it much more pleasant. The weather has improved a little bit. It's clearer now. I mean, it was so hazy a couple of days ago that you couldn't even see the mountains behind me, and we had these not sandstorms, but rain that was full of sand, and all the cars were filthy and our balcony was filthy afterwards. We didn't have much rain, but it was enough to to make the place very dirty looking. And then of course there is all the news about the terrible fires, and my heart goes out to all the people affected. It's really dreadful what's happening certainly in Spain and in France, but probably other parts of Europe too. And it's a real wake-up call for those of us who are concerned about climate change. But yeah, we've got a little bit of respite now. It's cooled off a little bit. It's only low 30s now, and yeah, I think we're feeling a bit better. And yeah, okay, so where am I going with this? It's probably better if I turn this way, I think. Well, these mountains I'm looking at are just breathtaking, and I still can't see all of them because of the haziness, but I can see enough to really appreciate the landscape here. So that's one way that we've made some changes in our life. Or maybe two ways, because I've started listening to the podcasts. We've started coming down to the beach and down to the sea and at different times of the day. I'm also saying yes to things. So I said in the last video that I've joined a book club, and this time we read a really challenging book. I think it was over 500 pages. And there were stories within stories, and it was quite a difficult one to follow. And it was set in Central Asia, and the names of the towns that were referred to meant nothing to me. So I was having to look things up as I was reading, so it was difficult. And at one point I thought, I'm not going to finish this book in time for the book club. So I let them know I'm not going to go. And then I thought, no, that's the wrong attitude. I'm going to go even if I've not finished. So I went along, and I actually got to within 2 chapters of finishing the book. So I almost finished it. And when I got there, I realised I'd done better than most, because most of them had also struggled. Anyway, during these conversations at the book club, something remarkable happened, and something very unexpected, and that was that I started to change my perception and my view of myself. And I don't want to sound big-headed or boastful here, but after years and years of thinking that I'm not good enough, or I'm not clever enough, and that I am inferior to others, something changed during those discussions, and I started to believe in myself. I started to think, hang on, I'm cleverer than I think. I've read a book pretty quickly and grasped it, and I'm able to enter into what was a fairly kind of intellectual discussion. You know, there were some really clever, bright people in this meeting. I think there were about 15 of us. There were a couple of authors, well, I don't know all their backgrounds because I'm still getting to know them, but it is clear that they're all in their own way quite remarkable people. And I was able to hold my own. I was able to enter into debates, into discussions. I often did things in the way that I do, which is I posed questions rather than telling people what I think. But I think they were reasonable questions, and I certainly prompted some of the best debates that we had during the meeting. So I did another thing then afterwards. I said yes to going out for a meal with some of them, and last time I said no, which is pretty much my standard response because I'm not normally very sociable, but I decided to go out for a meal with them, and I got chatting to them about the things that they did for a living out here, because most of them were younger than me and work out here. And I came away quite inspired and decided I'm going to get myself a job here. If I have a goal, I've got a couple of goals now. One is to learn Spanish, one is to find work. There's a practical reason I need to find work. Sorry, can't speak. But there's also a reason linked to my sort of self-worth and my purpose in life. But maybe I'll come on to that in a moment, and I'll have a little pause to think. But yeah, a little bit of an epiphany perhaps, a little bit of a turning point in my thinking, and maybe it'll end up being a turning point in my life. But let's see. Isn't it just lovely here? I don't know if the light is getting better for you. There's a typical Costa Blanca view, I would say. Lots of big apartment blocks on the coast. And whilst they're in some ways fairly ugly buildings, there's also, I think, a certain beauty to them. It's a bit like Birmingham, where I'm from. Different people have different views about the architecture and whether or not it's beautiful or ugly or somewhere in between. Okay, so work. What's going on there then? So first of all, I have, as I say, I've been struggling with a couple of things. The one is I still don't have healthcare cover here, or at least I don't have full healthcare cover, and my pre-existing conditions aren't being met. So still going through the paperwork with that, made some progress, but waiting to hear back from various different organisations about whether or not I'm going to be able to get the cover I need. I previously, in one of my earlier videos, said I thought that everyone here was entitled to healthcare, but now I'm not so sure. But anyway, I am pursuing various different avenues for that, and what we've done as a stopgap is during the last couple of weeks we have paid for some healthcare. So I've had a whole load of tests done to check whether my cancer has returned, and thankfully it appears to be okay. The results are a little bit different to the results I got in the UK. I understand that's probably because they use different methodologies, and obviously it's a different lab. But I now have a sort of a new baseline, and then if in a 3 or 4 months I have another test, then I can compare and see whether or not my PSA levels have gone up or whether they're the same. But they look very encouraging. It's marginally higher than the readings that I was getting in the UK, but it's not yet at a threshold where you need to, it's not yet met the threshold, the minimum threshold for needing to take action. So I felt a lot better after getting those results, and they also, whilst they were at it, tested a whole load of other things, and in general it appears that I'm in reasonably good health. So that reassured me on that, and we did a similar thing with my wife, and so we've done some temporary things. I was being a bit stubborn, I guess, about this and saying, oh no, I shouldn't be paying out money for this. We should be getting it through our healthcare. But in the end, you have to say, look, this is this is silly. You know, we need to be proactive here. We need to take our health seriously. There's no point in suffering. There's no point in putting ourselves at risk for the sake of a few €100. Let's just do what needs to be done, and we'll sort out the longer term healthcare in the next couple of months. And then in the next couple of months, I'm pursuing a couple of options. I am trying to get healthcare basically free of charge, getting access to the public healthcare. I know I can get that when I'm a pensioner, but I'm trying to sort something out for the interim period, and I don't know whether that's going to work. I suspect it's not, but at least I'm trying. But if it doesn't work, then the next option is to get a job, because if you get a job, then your employer has to pay social security contributions, and then you have the healthcare. So I started looking at jobs, and it's very difficult. So every job I've looked at so far, you need to be able to speak Spanish, and the kind of jobs are not necessarily the sort of work that would suit me. Although, to be honest, I thought, well, if I just get a part-time job, I'll do anything. I'll do cleaning, I'll do bar work, I'm not fussy. I'll even do litter picking. I'm really not that fussed. I just want a little job so I can make a contribution to the community in some small way and get access to healthcare, and also hopefully build up a little bit of money towards our retirement. However, I couldn't find anything except one job, and this made me laugh a little bit. The one job I found was working as a barman, but it was in Benidorm, which is, you know, a bit of a commute from us. It was working till 4 a.m. It was in a gay bar, and I had to be topless. And so I thought, not sure. They were after a younger person and an older person, so obviously I would have been the older person, but I'm not sure that was suited to me. But I found it quite amusing that the only job I was able to find, after all my years of working in these senior management positions, the only job I could find was working as a topless barman in a gay bar. But hey-ho. But needless to say, I didn't apply for that, although I joked with my family that I was going to. But what I think I've decided is that I'm going to take a course to get a teaching qualification. So I think it's called a TEFL qualification. So the goal is that I would be teaching English to people. And I don't know, I could do it online, but maybe I could also do it here to maybe local business people or something like that, or in schools maybe. I'm not sure. We'll see. Again, I don't know what opportunities it might create, but I think I'm going to enroll on this course and try and get that qualification so that I can then try and find some work. And I'm quite excited about that, and somehow or other it fits with a general theme. So there seems to be a theme emerging in my interests, which is about communication and language. So if I think about the fact I'm making these videos, or that I'm writing my book, or that I'm reading lots, or that I'm learning a language, all these things seem to fit quite nicely with the idea of teaching a language, teaching English. So I'm quite excited about this, and we'll see where it leads. So yeah, I'll let you know if I finally decide to embark on that path, on that journey. Sorry, I'm walking across difficult rocks here, and occasionally it affects my voice. Right, so I think that sort of concludes what I was intending to talk to you about. So this idea of not retreating and hiding away from the world versus going out there and grabbing all the opportunities that you can in order to create a better life for yourself and to make life better for those around you as well, which is also very important, perhaps more important. And I feel quite happy that even though I occasionally feel a bit sad about sitting around and doing nothing or missing England or Germany, I also feel like this could be one of those really important moments in my life that I will forever treasure, and that could really lead to something special. So I'm also feeling optimistic and confident and hopeful. So we will see. And I think in terms of the weather, it'll soon be September and October. You know, the days and weeks and months fly by at an unbelievable speed. So hopefully fairly soon the weather will be more bearable. Okay. So if you listen this far, I am very grateful to you. I'd love to hear from you if you've got any thoughts on any of this, and if you've got examples of how you've struggled with a big change in your life and how you adapted to it, especially if you came somewhere like this. But yeah, thanks ever so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll make another video soon. Thanks then, bye bye.